Hello, friends and foes! Greetings from Moscow, where it's November 6th, 2024, and I feel obliged to spell out what just went down. Trump is victorious, a fine reason for all the right people to celebrate. Let's talk about what this means now for Russia, Ukraine, the USA, Europe, and everything else around the globe that makes people's hearts race. First off, how did Trump manage to win? It's plain as day. American voters and taxpayers are fed up to the gills with parasites. These parasites haven't just been gobbling from other tables. No, they've grown more brazen, more swinish. They've become marauders, swarms of Africans and illegals from Latin America, looting the hands that feed them, even committing rape and murder, and the leftists are to blame. They empowered these leeches, shoving them down voters' and taxpayers' throats. When you hear Democratic Party or liberal, your hand should fly up, ready to catch these liars by their ugly claws. Same goes for any phony hypocrites, because they are not liberals. True liberals have always defended free individuals against the brainless mob, especially when that mob is a pack of slackers. And this is the dictatorship leftists are up for. Leftists always champion what they pompously hail as the collective, but that's hogwash, because people differ in intellect and countless other capacities. So how can anyone think they can melt together what's unmeltable? It's impossible. But that's exactly the mismatched union of empty vessels that leftists keep pushing. And they violated the core principle, equality, specifically equality of opportunity. The leftists swapped it out for a push of equality of outcome instead, and that's real fascism, a crude, vulgar form of it. They cancel, they suppress, they push their preferences into hiring, development, and the like. They replace those who work hard, those who bring the right skills, those who fit better for this task or that, with mediocrity, total losers, or sometimes even the completely inept. All because they demand equality of outcome. And mark my words, that road leads straight to fascism. This so-called positive discrimination is blatant fascism and racism too. We've got to fight back. Besides, these leftists haven't just burdened the hard-working, tried and tired voter with throngs of illegals, tens of millions of invaders and occupiers. Oh no, that wasn't enough. They've dumped entire countries of slaggards on the backs of tax-paying citizens, whole bloody countries. Let's take a quick look back. Who did this before? The Soviet Union, of course. The Soviets wrung their own people dry just to feed African cannibal dictators and terrorists in Cuba, keeping the repression machine going and forcing people to swim away from that Marxist-occupied hellhole. The island itself is fine. That island thrived under capitalism and the free market. But then came the collapse. Leftists dragged it into poverty, just like they're doing now in France, England, the USA, and everywhere else. And now, after the desperate struggle, it's been decided America to be or not to be, and America will be. This country has proven it's still got the fire in its heart. The United States secured their right to survival by electing Trump. They chose a man who, and this is why I support him, by the way, Trump had everything, but risked it all. He turned down comfort and stability, the easy life, all for the sake of millions of decent people in his country, the country he loves fiercely. And that's the truth. No one can deny how much he loves America. He really does, and it's downright refreshing when a president loves his country. Genuinely, of course, not some patriotic perversion. The leftists pulled out all their usual tricks, their criminal terrorist ways of dealing with political opponents, because that's what leftists and Bolsheviks do: plunder, terrorize, strip people of their property. It's always dictatorship, always oppression. They launched thousands of bogus criminal cases against Trump. They even tried to assassinate him, attempted to murder him multiple times using schemes of varying quality. They fueled it, pushed the propaganda, and, so to speak, crafted an ideology of hatred against Trump, deliberately steering things in this direction. And it wouldn't shock me if it turns out that indoctrinated stooges in certain state agencies had a hand in the setup. But what a miracle it was. I mean, the miracle that Trump survived. A miracle you can explain through biology and the laws of evolution. Who survives? The strongest. The ones who are more gifted, healthier, emotionally developed, the ones who are more active and effective. What saved Trump from that bullet that grazed his ear? He just turned his head. He was quick. He was animated. His blood pressure solid. He's lived wisely, and here he is, pushing 80. See how science can make sense of miracles? Wherever there are miracles, there is always science, and that particular miracle also deserves a spot in the books. By the way, these so-called political scientists, as if that's even a real science. History is a science, not this. They were claiming this race will be a close, cheek-by-jowl situation, dragging on with vote counts forever, just like last time in Philadelphia. More delays, extensions, another penny-pinching circus, and plenty of folks thought the same. But I said from the start, the outcome would be clear. If no cheating happened, the leftists would be crushed. And that's exactly what went down. Total squelcher, not some close win. Why so? First, the leftists pissed everyone off and maxed out all limits of awfulness. And second, we've all heard how Trump is despised by hoodlums and leeches. Yeah, we know the tune. But how much did we actually hear from American media about how people really adore Trump? Hardly a word on how the average Joe, the simple worker or office clerk, truly supports him. And why is that? Because people were scared stiff by the totalitarian left-wing tyranny. The Obama, Biden, Harris regimes are all the same beast. It all funnels back to Obama's administration, grounded in hatred for America. This guy is a real issue. Just look at his muzzle. He despises America as a society built by whites and as a nation. Who founded the USA? Whites. Nobody else. Here's my question. Why some people build while others can only destroy? There is scientific reasoning behind it, and now is the time to face that conclusion. So, Obama's government set out to destroy America, and the intensity of left-wing propaganda swept through universities, intimidated employers and employees, and deployed the forces of fake news media to take full control. It was so pervasive that people were frightened to voice their true opinions. And the leftists failed to understand what voters truly think and want. I have to say, it reminds me a whole lot of another totalitarian regime. Think, people. Imagine this. If folks could actually speak their minds without fear of punishment or repression, if we just followed the Constitution, a true, undeniable freedom of speech, freedom of conscience. Do you know what they'd say, how they'd vote, what they'd demand? You get it very well, don't you? And those who seized power get it too, but they fear it. So they stomp out any flicker of life. These leftists in the USA tried, and they failed, because unlike there, they have deep-rooted values of freedom. The torch of liberty, the one safeguard against tyranny, lasted just long enough to make this victory possible. Next, what awaits Trump, the USA, and us in the coming days, weeks, months, and years? First, we need to brace for resistance from the usual sluggards and thugs and their whole criminal gang, the so-called Democratic Party, which has nothing to do with democracy. It's a fully organized left-wing totalitarian crime syndicate. They've committed an avalanche of offenses, from corruption to abuse of government power. Among the worst, and it demands punishment, is hiding from voters the truth about Biden. Biden, the imposter, the placeholder-in-chief, cannot be president under any circumstances due to medical incapacity. The entire administration was in on this cover-up, just like a pack of mobsters, sweeping their mess under the rug. And of course, the full-blown corruption, the outrageous squandering of billions of dollars from the national budget, both domestically and abroad. Now it's crucial to investigate every inch of this, and it will be, especially with Republicans holding the majority in Congress. But darlings, of course, any criminal syndicate won't just sit still and wait. It'll fight back. They'll kick up a storm in the media, crying, shrieking, wailing, howling, just like leftists love to do. Hysterical drama queens, sobbing, tearing what's left of their hair to shreds. What a freak show. And then, new assassination attempts on Trump and his team. They'll keep coming and get worse, because now the bad guys are cornered and forced to strike. Rats trapped in the USA, trying to take one last bite. They've already tried, and since there is no way out, it only escalates. Yes, both Trump and his team and Elon Musk, who hypothetically should become the next American president, they all have to bring their lives under absolute protection. They've got to be most vigilant, on high alert, while working to heal, to repair the nation. And it's a hard pill to deliver. They should keep their guard up like never before. What else should we expect? What sabotage will they inflict? Because last time Trump's actions, brilliant actions, suffered a lot from political do-nothing obstructionism. The main challenge for Trump or any other decent person or successful businessman Take Elon Musk, Javier Milei, or even me, for example. Well, any alright citizen who wants to pursue social, political, or scientific work is to cut down the state apparatus, otherwise it evolves into a usurping totalitarian machine. It starts breeding officials beyond any measure. These officials begin to identify themselves with the entire nation and the motherland, not even themselves, but their superiors, those department heads, dogs, well, you know what. These blokes, are they the nation? No, that's a lie. Officials and their bosses are not the nation. They are just hired functionaries, entrusted to manage the funds contributed by working people. But when they start padding the pockets of deadbeat sponges, or themselves and their cronies, or when these mutts are brazen enough to spout ideology and spew brainwashing slogans from the podium, such officials need to be kicked out, get it? Kicked in the butt, and hunted down, and preferably locked up. Such officials have gone too far. And now to business. Why also am I so fired up about the good tidings from Trump's victory in the USA? Because Trump's triumph represents, above all, the triumph of the transfer of power concept. This concept is marvelous and worth celebrating. And you know, just to see it working somewhere, in some other land, some people get to enjoy it, some don't for decades. But this concept simply must be. It's urgent. Otherwise, horrible things can happen. Terrible, bloody, impoverished outcomes if there is no peaceful transition. It must be established absolutely everywhere. This is crucial for all bipedal primates. The transfer of power must be secured. And the leftists, those eager to shackle Trump, to kill him, to denigrate, they were desperate to usurp power fully, to block any transfer. The whole deep state shebang isn't even something institutional. No, it's like an autonomic reflex that connects all the word scoundrels. You see, scumbags, freaks, mobsters and parasites, they don't need to sign anything or hold secret meetings. It's institutional for them. It's like they're programmed to make life hell for those who work, those who are beautiful and snappy, those who have no need for bureaucracy. And that's exactly why the transfer of power is so vital. My friends, take a closer look. Let us preach this from the housetops. Let us put these methods and concepts to work. But why do I take it so personally? Why, here in Russia, in Moscow, am I so glad about Trump's victory? A man I've supported all these years, last time and when the election was stolen, and now when he triumphed. You see, this feeling of mine is a pure biological reaction, an unbiased, honest, genuine response when you see someone so remarkable, so extraordinary, a person who does things his own way, and does it boldly, without hesitation. He's proven it time and again. This man has guts. He's almost 80, and yet he managed to pull off an incredible pre-election campaign while defending himself in court, even under arrest. Try standing up to something like that. That's the spirit. That's a real individual. And I'll always stand with the individual. I'll never support the rabble, the cockroaches. I have no respect for the collective. Leave these cockroaches somewhere else. Behold, real justice. The rabble promoted Kamala Harris. That's what I call this Harris woman. And against them stood Donald Trump. Let's be honest here. Who the dickens is this Harris mongrel? She's a nobody. Not a businesswoman, not a scientist, not an employer, not a philosopher. She's done nothing in politics. She has no political program whatsoever. Just a few favorite slogans, scribbled up by leftist flunkies, those city whipsters, and a few lines she flat out stole from Trump, and she got busted for it. You can check it yourself. Her political stance is a non-entity, and she was a partner in crime to that tottering Biden in their takeover of a nation, a crime against the whole country. And she was covering up Biden's inability to lead the country. She's a standing criminal. Let me remind you, speaking now about Russia and Ukraine, who these leftists and their gang really are. They are a true phenomenon of impudence, crassitude, and pure danger to all people. As was shown recently, yes, now they are investigating things, making publications, etc. And I said it back then, as if I saw with X-ray vision. I think it was February 19, 2022, when Kamala Harris, and how those miserable fools praised her, Ukrainian nincompoops. And what did she advise President Zelensky to do? She told him to bug out, to flee his own country, and set up some ridiculous government in exile. And not just run away, but leave a testimony behind. How do you like that? Yeah, you might get killed on the road, or your plane might crash, so jot down your last will, just in case. And this woman represents the world's strongest power. She advised her ally, and modern Ukraine is their ally, to strike their colors. And before all this, Biden the retard sent his third-rate officials here in Moscow to reassure, yes, just to inform as a fact, the Kremlin that they could do whatever they wanted. And the United States wouldn't interfere. They literally said, tell-yo, run wild. Of course, the Kremlin would run loose after that. Trump is different. His stance is to diffuse conflicts, to prevent people from dying. He brings back a sense of reality, so everyone can grasp what's possible and what isn't. This principle is essential in both science and business deals. But the majority of human-like primates have lost their marbles completely. They reject reality, preferring to listen to info-gypsies promising them the riches of Xanadu and El Dorado and the return of long-lost borders. By the way, why promise the borders of 1991? Why not 1921 or 1918 or even 1621? Why not roll all the way back to the days of the great Greek colonization? As a historian, I could draw plenty of lines on a map, just give the word. Yet they waste endless hours every year listening to those freakish hucksters. How many of those frauds, before they started swindling half-naive, half-baked Russians and Ukrainians with fantasies, they were working here in Moscow. Many of them are just our local, I won't say who. So, they were working in Moscow in the 70s, 80s and 90s, making money, maybe even as the Chekhov's little canaries. Now they are in Kiev, drumming up some pure-blooded Ukrainian war cry and fake promises. Back to Trump. Trump did everything to prevent large-scale conflicts. This is a fact, plain and proven. There were no wars under President Trump. As expected, a cell phone's memory is shorter than mine, that's why we stopped. I'm no cell phone, I'm a historian, and my reservoir is vast. I do remember everything. So, who was in charge when the action began? The leftist. Because the leftists stirred things up without offering real aid. They instigated countless conflicts without a single safeguard, leaving their allies agitated and defenseless. Your defense must be as strong as the enemy you're up against. If the defensive line is underprepared, you are naked. That's no shield. It's a scam that's cost hundreds of thousands of lives. Look at my work over the last 10, 15, 20 years. Through interviews and live streams, tempting fate and repressive responses on every talk show in Russia. I was there trying to rein it in, to halt, to stanch the common disaster. I used every means possible, deflecting hysterical pot shots from both sides, because I knew it would be a nightmare. Trump, with ample means at his disposal, followed the same path as mine, for as long as he was in charge. Then came a recess for several years, nobody listened to me, and he wasn't allowed to finish what he'd started. The rest, you know. It echoed across the entire globe, because there is massive tension worldwide. We know about Ukraine, the Middle East, quarrels within Europe, and the spat between Europe and the USA. There is also a multi-layered conflict between the USA and China, and so on. The world is full of conflicts, so why highlight just one conflict among many? We need to step back and see the big picture. Trump knew how to smooth out conflicts. He knew exactly what it's like to be in the thick of it. And if some people say, oh, but he and Putin, look here, if you want to achieve something, and if you know what good manners are, you reach your goals through diplomacy. The goal is to solve a problem, not to make the air blue. Which do you prefer? To make noise and show off? You've done that already. Or to finally get on with it? I assume it's better to do things right than just make noise. If someone is strong enough, his voice carries without needing to throw around tanks and rockets. For a man like that, it's enough just to talk peacefully, with a smile on his face. But his words hit like a ton of bricks. Even if his opponent is a complete nitwit, beg your pardon for saying so, they'll think 50 times before taking their next step, you see? And Donald Trump is a basher in this kind of conversation. But then come the leftists, with their usual "you're so great" tune. Your greatness couldn't scare a fly. No real borders, no budget, no economy, half the population has fled. Stick your greatness where it fits. See what I'm talking about? See the difference now? Onward. Today, my social media is packed, not only with joy and fiesta, but also with loads of political questions and rants. The elections happened in the United States, but the questions I'm getting aren't about the United States. They're either about Russia or, more often, about Ukraine. Folks, do you realize how twisted and paranoid this focus is? We should be talking about what this means for the United States. It's the President of the United States who was elected, not the President of Ukraine, not Russia, not Finland, not China. People, you need to fix your mental issues first and learn what honesty really means. Honesty is when you're not trying to pawn off your own problems onto other people or countries to solve. But plenty of Russians, even some of the good ones, and even more Ukrainians, not all of them, I know marvelous, beautiful Ukrainians, my followers, truly wonderful people I'd support and protect with all my will, are desperate to bypass their troubles to other people and other countries, even those far away. What scoundrels! Villainous, beggarly yokels! In fact, it's a national quirk, a really bad one. Yes, every nation has its cranks, the French, Italians, Russians, Jews. Oh no, we're not touching the Jews, that's dangerous. And I do honestly support the Israeli people in their fight against the filthy Islamic terrorists. Alright, different ethics have different kinds of toys, but the nerve, the piggish selfishness of the great bulk of Ukrainians, especially the rustic folk, is something out of the league. You know, I always thought Islamists and Africans were the top-tier bare knuckles. Oh no, the Ukrainians, not all of them, I emphasize, not all of them, the great bulk of them, shiver me timbers, it's beyond recovery. In their impertinence and beastliness, they've even outdone the Africans and Islamists. By Darwin's name, I swear they have. And such traits need to be cut out. So, what else about Russia and Ukraine? This is a bit off topic, what I'm about to say now. But it's about those heckled-up crazies. I've got plenty of followers here who are all about fighting for liberty in Russia, and so many of them are practically in mourning today. It's like every last one of their relatives checked out of life. They are devastated that it was the magnificent, tall, joyful, eximious Trump who won, not Harris the gollywog. And they wail like a passing bell. But how about us? How to save Russia? This How to Save Russia, I, a historian, have been fed up to my toes with that line for years and centuries. And they think the American president has to save them. Just dash off and rescue our opposition, the protests in Russia and all that, you nutters, you paranoids. My dear mournful jellybeans, you've flushed your spirits down where no light shines, but don't be so hasty. Remember, a velvet glove may cover an iron fist. The Russian language and Russian culture are truly great, and I speak in Russian. And my monograph, the most important book, I'd say, and I can prove it, about the history of Russia, the Russian Empire and Russian imperialism, my monograph, the first scientific history of the War of 1812, is also written in Russian, not in any other language, not English, nor Ukrainian, nor Estonian, as a monograph of such caliber on Russian imperialism ever been written, none but Russian, because it's absorbed all the wealth of English, French, Italian, and their mutual genitor, Latin. It's taken in the best. Russian is not some gimpy dialect of the churl. No, it's a grand civic language. I know hearing this may scratch at your feelings, but it's a fact. And don't blame me for saying it. It's my duty as a scientist to tell you the truth. There is a big difference between me and those info gypsies who fill your heads with pipe dreams and delusions. I tell it like it is. And how it will be. That's why my forecasts are spot on. 25 years ago, when I was just a kid, a youngling, just look, I gave an interview to Svetlana Konygin back in 2002. I predicted everything, making notes somewhere with a doodle or squiggle or double tick, and watch it well. My followers found this recording about a year ago, and just like diamonds, I'm forever. And I'm glad about Trump's victory simply because it's aesthetic, it's logical, it's exactly how it should be. Look at Trump, he is a president, the bona fide president of the USA. Kamala just doesn't fit. Besides, this Kamala, the one who caused so many Russian righteous tears with her defeat, is mentally unsound. She's inadequate. Her cackling is unsettling, and laughter, pardon me for saying so, reveals a lot about one's true nature. Laughter can do a lot of good, but it also reveals plenty. In her case, it reveals a mental disorder. No remedy. Some other aspects of what's happened and what's coming up, more details about Russia, Ukraine and Zelensky too, I'll cover in our next live stream. It'll take some time, so be ready, stay in line, and don't forget my previous live streams. Because what I said a year ago, or 2, 4, 7, 8 years earlier, that's exactly what's unfolding right now. Any topic of the day, juicy and fresh, you can believe it's hot. Hot wire scoops from elsewhere go dead cold in seconds. But my interview from 2002, given 22 years ago, that's the order of the day. My articles in Kommersant from 2004, 2005 and so on, those are real-life events right now, 20 years later, and no one understood it back then, not even those who ended up crushed by the totalitarian machine. They are victims, sure, but they're also co-participants, because they failed to grasp it, to warn us, to handle things the way they should have been handled. And to all the businessmen who don't bankroll education and those fighting against dictatorship as they should, or to those who did bankroll but dumped their money into the pockets of leftist miscreants. I won't name one foundation in particular, but you know what I mean. They are thieves, and not just any thieves, while squeezing cash out of you. They've stirred up people, even school kids, and thrown you under the cops' bludgeons for nothing. Meanwhile, I was neck-deep in science and education. I gave you the explanations about what's going on and what you should do. I was hacking away at this regime at its roots, and I'm still at it. Don't you see? There is a time and place for everything. I was sounding the alarm about this regime's madness 25 years ago. And 20 years ago, and 18. But little by little it got too late, and now we wait for another chance. But these scuds skimmed your cash and told you to smash your head on a solid wall. That's exactly what leftists do. They love to dangle promises of a bright future in front of you. Don't fall for this crap. You only live once, here and now. Yes, every penny counts for future success, but the moment to live is right now, and that's the life I'm giving you. Joyful, happy, beautiful. Don't just watch political rants non-stop. Watch my videos from museums, from restaurants, from the beautiful beaches in Nice, the walkways in Rome, in Paris. That's what matters, more than my political reviews. But the audience, these ninnies, are obsessed with politics. Like schizoids, they start scratching and squirming, but they don't care about aesthetics, about beauty, about what makes life meaningful. They like, nah, I don't get it. What's its aesthetics for? But there is no life without aesthetics.
Да, сейчас. Да. Слушайте, а можно, вот что мне, можно это самое, почитать главное? Да, конечно. Да. Это я сейчас подниму. Нет, давайте. Да. А нет, ну тогда я буду рекламировать, если я подниму сейчас. Если да. Но правильно, вы знаете что, вы мне правильно сказали поднять бокал. Вовремя.
My dear friends and especially...
Сейчас я уделю тоже.
Especially foes.
Я пью за здоровье немногих, но близких друзей.
I drink to the triumph of the individual, the value in itself. Honestly, I could care less what actions Trump will take now. It's just right. The character who stands tall, prevailing over grey mediocrity, all those bummers, those deep state mobsters, and that mentally unsound, dumb and babbling nobody Harris. She's a nobody, and we are not discussing her here. We celebrate the victory of personality, a tall man and white man, and whites are hunted worldwide these days. Once more, let's cherish all these aesthetical victories. this evening and last night, because many people in Russia, in Moscow, weren't in their beds last night. Well, I'm kinda used to living like this. Nights spent reading, writing, and other things. Total nessun dorma. None shall sleep tonight. My toast and my champagne to the peaceful transfer of power. Without many words, praised be the justice and this beautiful victory. A decisive victory against the leftists.
И, ну вот давайте, чтобы мы как бы все были вместе, давайте с вами немножко чокнемся. Чин-чин, ура, ура. И чтобы вы услышали лучше, да, чуть-чуть есть, слышно? Хорошо. Замечательно. Ура, друзья.